I am committed to helping LEAD do this. I am going to work as hard as I can to convince you to support me in this race. And we are going to run a positive campaign. I think that's also should be part of our brand. If we're the first state in 30 years where a winning campaign can do no negative ads, right? That'll be in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. Our shower ad, which personally I think is kind of silly, and let me tell you, it's no fun sitting up there and having. The moment you turn the water on, there's a 2-second pause before the water hits your face, and they had a little camera up in that nozzle, and the camera's right up there looking at you. So I turn the water on in my suit, and then I have to look up this thing and have the water hit me in the face. We did that 8 times, right? So it was like getting waterboarded, right? The next morning when I got into my normal shower, I turned the water on, I went, But I do think it's important. I think if we're the first state to do a positive campaign and win, and it gets into the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, it continues to brand us as a state that does things differently. And that's the kind of thing that would attract people to open a business here. I mean, we spend $15 or $20 million doing tourism marketing on, come spend your vacation in Colorado. Why don't we begin to mix them a little bit? Why don't we say, come spend your next vacation in Colorado. You just might want to open a business here, right? You just might want to open an office here. And I think those are the kinds of things that can come out of a positive campaign, that whole new way of branding Colorado. I'll finish with I was told on a number of occasions this notion of running a positive campaign is impossible. Well, back when I was running for mayor the first time, and I started with 3% in the polls, and probably half of those people worked for me, right? And we went out and we said we were going to do a positive campaign. People said it was impossible. My staff would get discouraged. And I carried this clipping from the Denver Post. And I've told this story probably 200 times. It was about a professor at the University of Wyoming in Laramie telling her class about the importance of using opposites when you speak. And she said if you talk about the worst of times, you have to talk about the best of times. If you talk about the agony, you have to talk about the ecstasy. And the words gain power by being together. She asked her class, what's the opposite of despair? Kid raises his hand and goes, joy? She goes, exactly. You want people to feel despair. Use joy. In the same sense, the words gain emotional impact by being together. Then she asks her class, she says, what's the opposite of woe? And a kid way in the back goes, giddy up. And the bottom line is the opposite of woe is to giddy up. Whether you're talking about trying to start a brew pub in an abandoned warehouse in a forgotten part of downtown Denver, whether you're talking about trying to turn around not just a state economy but a national economy, or whether you're talking about trying to win a statewide campaign for elected office with a positive campaign, the opposite of woe is to giddy up. And with your help, I intend to giddy up across Colorado. Thank you.
I think we have a couple of questions, and feel free to stand.
Is this thing? Oh, great. Mayor, Stan Kazir, Mountain Parks Electric Gaming, Colorado. I think this may tie in with your parking meter story a little bit. My question is, last year one of the budget balancing HB 101190 suspended the sales tax exemption for electricity sold for industrial manufacturing purposes. Would you sign or support a similar bill during your administration if you're elected governor?
No, my goal would be to obviously avoid, we would do no additional bills like that where fees are kind of hidden in as tax increases. I think our goal should be to repeal those exemptions that they took away in the last session as quickly as we can. I'm not promising to do it the first day because I think we've got a very, very tough budget situation, but I think that should be our first goal, is to say, all right, how do we get back to a state of equilibrium as quickly as possible?
Thank you.
Who's next? Tom.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Mayor. I'm Tom Compton from LaPlace Electric in Durango. We appreciate your visiting our neck of the woods. My question is, what is your position on the Amendment 6061 and Proposition 101, and briefly explain why or why not you support them?
Sure. So 60, 61, 101 are the three initiatives. One of them reduces vehicle registrations to either $1 or $2. Essentially, it would pull $1 billion out of the state budget. And it's hard to imagine how you can do that after they've cut $2.5 billion without decimating public education, transportation funding. I mean, it would be, I think, catastrophic. Second one, prohibits government from borrowing money to build anything, essentially. And, you know, you would stop building police stations, fire stations, schools. I mean, again, I can't imagine how you could pass that and and survive. And then the last one, those communities that have de-Bruced have passed legislation to de-Bruce and keep it as their natural taxes without raising taxes, but as their tax increases have gone up, they voted to de-Bruce. They would have to re-de-Bruce. So for 1 year, their budgets would be completely upside down. I look at any one of these three, I think would be debilitating. I think they take away the right of local voters. I'm a supporter. If we want more money in this state, my job is to go out there and say, all right, here are the conditions of the roads. If people really think our bridges and roads are in such a desperate state, which, and I'm not saying they are or they aren't. We have a little, as I've driven around the state now 3 times, 3 circumnavigations around the state. I've been in every county once. I've been in almost every county twice. That's many, many counties 3 times. We keep a graph and we track the condition of state roads. And there are some that are pretty darn rough. Not all. I mean, I think overall a lot of our roads are in great shape, but if our bridges and our roads are in such bad condition, it's government's job to go to the people and say, all right, here's what will get fixed, here's how that money will be fixed, here's what you'll get out of it if we want more revenues. I don't think that 60, 61, or 101 address that at all. What they do is they debilitate government, and I think, again, that's something that would get into Time or Newsweek or the Wall Street Journal and would give us a tremendous black eye. So I am actively opposing all 3 of them, as is, I believe, all of the people running for the Senate, all of the people. Scott McGinnis was opposing him. I believe Dan Mays is opposing him. I mean, they're tough. They seem great on the surface, but they could be very, very destructive.
Just so you know, Mr. Mayor, CRA has also come out against those 3 proposals, so thank you.
Good.
Other questions? Yeah.
Mayor Hickenlooper, I'm Jim Lewick, Highline Electric, Board of Directors, based out in Holyoke, Colorado.
We had a great stop in Holyoke. I was at was it 2 nights ago, I was at an event, and this couple came up to me, and they just said, you know what? You blew Holyoke away. And their parents were out in Holyoke. I said, I did? You know? Anyway. Hey, it's not bragging if it's fact. They said that to me.
Any chance you get to brag, you go right ahead.
Yeah, there are not that many, are there?
We'll see this fall. Colorado currently has a renewable portfolio standard for investor-owned utilities at 30% and for non-investor-owned utilities at 10%. Would you support an increase in the RPS for non-investor-owned utilities?
Well, the non-investor-owned utilities are obviously co-ops. And my sense is I don't think government should be coming in and regulating you and telling you what you should or shouldn't do. You know, I look at the issues around climate change. I've got a master's in geology, right? I took some climate science. And I find it very disconcerting. I'm not someone who thinks that the sky is falling. When I say that, I get attacked by my environmental friends. But I do know that science is an imperfect thing, and that it's very hard to really prove that climate is changing as rapidly as so many top scientists think, or that it's the result of mankind's activities. I'm not going to get involved in that debate. What I do think is that we have to be prepared in case it is changing at that rate. And in Colorado, the issues around water storage and our snowpack for our ski resorts could be dramatically affected by changes in climate, and we should be ever vigilant. I don't know how many of you ever expect your house is ever going to catch fire. Hopefully your house never has caught fire. A fraction of a % of people's homes in this country ever catch fire in their lifetime, right? And yet we all buy fire insurance. And I think that's the challenge with finding more renewables and looking at how are we going to get coal to where it really burns cleanly. And I mean fully cleanly, so it's not putting out a lot of greenhouse gases. I don't think we have those solutions, but I think we have to focus and say, all right, if those guys are right, let's forget about for a moment proving who's right or who's wrong and getting into that adversarial thing. But let's start thinking, if it turns out over the next 5 or 10 years that they are right, what are we going to do? And let's be prepared so it doesn't sneak up on us. So anyway, I don't think that should be the state government coming and putting those limits on you. But I'm not saying I wouldn't go out to all of you and say, hey, shouldn't you on your own decide as a co-op to look at higher renewables. In the end, it's your decision.